Have you ever prayed the Rosary with all your heart, yet felt nothing? You whispered the prayers, you held the beads tight, but instead of peace, there was a strange emptiness, as if heaven was listening, but not responding. Padre Pio understood this silence. He saw it in the confessional, in the eyes of good Catholics, in the souls of people who wanted to do everything right. He once said that many prayers fall to the ground before reaching God, not because he doesn't love us, but because we don't realize we're praying wrong. Imagine a woman sitting in her room at night. She lights a candle, picks up her rosary, and begins to pray for her son who's lost in addiction. Her voice trembles, her hands shake, but her mind is rushing, distracted, mechanical, and without knowing it, she's doing exactly what Padre Pio warned against. He taught that the rosary is not a chain of words, but a lifeline to heaven, that each bead must carry the weight of your soul, that your lips must speak from your heart, not just memory. And when this doesn't happen, the prayer becomes noise. It looks holy, it feels right, but it blocks grace instead of drawing it in. This is not to condemn you, it's to awaken you, because if you're praying the rosary every day, but not seeing spiritual fruit, maybe it's time to look deeper. In this video, you'll discover what Padre Pio revealed about the hidden danger in how we pray. A danger that doesn't scream, it whispers, it hides in routine, but it can slowly dry out your soul. And if this message stirs something inside you, take a second to gently press like and subscribe. That simple action helps this truth reach another heart in silence, just like yours. Let us begin this journey into the warning that could change how you pray and how you live from this moment on. She was a woman of faith. Every night she would kneel beside her bed, rosary in hand, and begin to pray. Decade after decade, she whispered the words she had learned as a child. Hail Mary, our Father, glory be. Her voice was soft, her eyes often closed, but something was missing. Padre Pio once said that the greatest tragedy in spiritual life is when a person prays with their mouth while their soul remains asleep. He had seen it too many times. People came to him heartbroken, saying their prayers were not being answered, and gently he would reveal the truth. The prayer wasn't wrong, but the way it was offered was empty. The woman continued her routine for years. She believed she was doing the right thing. After all, praying the rosary is one of the most sacred Catholic devotions. But the way she rushed through it, the way her mind wandered to tomorrow's worries, the way she treated it like a daily task instead of a living encounter with heaven, all of it created a distance between her and the grace she so deeply needed. Padre Pio taught that praying the rosary should never be mechanical. He said that each word must be offered like a rose to the Virgin Mary, fresh and full of meaning. Otherwise, it becomes a chain of noise. He even warned that when the heart is absent, the enemy is near, because where there is routine without love, the soul is left exposed. Are you praying the rosary like this, with good intentions but no fire in your heart? Have you been offering words without attention, hoping God will hear something you haven't truly spoken? This is not a judgment, it's a wake-up call, one that Padre Pio gave to thousands, and today he gives it to you. If this made you reflect, type in the comments, I want to pray with my soul. Let that be the first step toward a new way of praying, one that touches heaven and transforms your life. There was a man who never missed a day of prayer. Every morning before leaving home, he would pick up his rosary and pray a few decades. He believed it gave him protection. He believed it was a shield. But over time, something changed. He stopped thinking about what the words meant. His fingers moved, his lips moved, but his heart was cold. It wasn't rebellion, it was habit. Padre Pio once said that the enemy does not fear the rosary in your hands. He fears the rosary in your heart. When prayer becomes a checklist, a duty without soul, it loses its light. What began as devotion becomes routine, and routine without awareness creates a spiritual fog that slowly covers the heart. This man started to feel distant from God. He couldn't explain why. He was still praying. He was still going to Mass. but the connection was weak. The peace he once felt after prayer was gone. He began to wonder if heaven had turned away from him. But the truth was deeper. It wasn't heaven that had turned, it was his own heart that had drifted. Padre Pio warned that this happens to many. It's not a loss of faith, it's a loss of presence. A person begins with love, but ends with habit, and that habit becomes a wall. The Rosary should be a dialogue with heaven, a living prayer. Each word should carry the weight of intention. Without that, even holy things can become empty. He realized one day, after hearing a homily, that he hadn't really prayed in years. He had repeated, he had spoken, but he hadn't listened. That night, for the first time in a long time, he slowed down. He held the beads, he closed his eyes, and he began again, with heart, with silence, with love. This is your moment to do the same, not to give up the Rosary, but to rediscover it. If this message touched your journey, write in the comments, "I don't want to pray by habit." Let this be your first word spoken with full presence. She kept the Rosary under her pillow. It gave her peace. Every night, before closing her eyes, she would reach for it and begin to pray. But as the weeks passed, her life remained heavy. Her mind still raced. Her fears didn't quiet. She wondered if she was doing something wrong. She prayed every day. Why wasn't she changing inside? Padre Pio called the Rosary a weapon, a real weapon, not against people, but against the darkness that tries to steal our peace. But like any weapon, it must be used with intention, with strength, with focus. A sword in the hands of someone distracted is not protection, it's just decoration. The woman didn't realize that over time, her prayer had become automatic. She prayed with the TV on. She answered messages between mysteries. Her fingers moved, but her soul wasn't involved. The Rosary was in her hand, but it wasn't in her spirit. Padre Pio warned about this. He said that Satan fears the Rosary prayed with faith and fire, but he laughs at the Rosary prayed with distraction, because that kind of prayer gives the illusion of holiness. It makes you feel safe, but in truth, your soul is left exposed, open, unprotected. She didn't know that the way she was praying was weakening her. Until one night, after a dream that shook her, she woke up and felt something different, a need to start over. She turned everything off, lit one candle, held the Rosary, and for the first time in months, she whispered each word slowly, from her heart. And in that silence, she felt it. A warmth, a presence, a connection. That night, she wasn't just saying the Rosary, she was living it. Padre Pio wants the same for you, not just repetition, but transformation. That's the real power of this prayer. If something inside you wants to return to that kind of prayer, write in the comments, "I want the Rosary to protect my soul." That simple act might be the beginning of a deeper life with God. He was sitting in church with his Rosary in hand. The sunlight came through the stained glass windows. The choir sang softly in the distance. People around him were deep in prayer, but his mind was not there. As he moved from one bead to the next, his thoughts drifted to his job, to his bills, to everything except what he was saying. Padre Pio spoke often about the danger of distraction. He said that the enemy doesn't always attack with noise. Sometimes he works in silence. He lets you keep your habits, your prayers, your devotions, but he takes your attention, and when your attention is gone, your soul is exposed. This man didn't realize he had prayed an entire Rosary without remembering a single mystery. He felt disappointed, but brushed it off. At least he was there. At least he had prayed. But the truth is, he hadn't. Not fully. Not with his soul. Padre Pio warned that prayer without attention is like a letter sent without an address. It looks right. It sounds holy, but it never arrives. Heaven listens to the heart, not the noise. The man began to notice a pattern. Every time he prayed distracted, he felt more tired, not more peaceful, more restless, not more connected. It wasn't because God was far, it was because his heart had stopped showing up. One day, he decided to try something different. Before he began the Rosary, he sat in silence. He breathed deeply. He asked for help. Then, slowly, he began to pray with full focus, one word at a time, one bead at a time, and everything changed. For the first time in years, he felt present, and in that presence he felt grace return. Padre Pio wanted us to fight distraction, not with force but with love, with reverence, with intention. If this story made you think about how you've been praying lately, leave a comment saying, "I want to be present in every prayer." That small act could be the start of a deeper transformation inside you. She had been carrying pain for years, not physical pain, but a deep sadness that no doctor could name. She felt lost even while going to Mass. She prayed the Rosary every day, but her heart remained heavy. She thought God had forgotten her. Until one day, someone gave her a small booklet with words from Padre Pio. One phrase stood out like fire. It said, "Pray with faith, and miracles will happen." She decided to try again. That night, she lit a candle. She turned off all the noise. She held her rosary slowly, carefully, like it was a fragile treasure, and she began. This time, not from memory, but from hunger. Not to complete a task, but to reach heaven. As she prayed, something broke inside her. Tears came. Words felt real. She paused after every mystery, breathing, letting the silence speak. And in that silence, something changed. Not outside her, but within. A peace she hadn't felt in years gently filled the room. It wasn't emotional, it was sacred. Padre Pio said that the Rosary, when prayed with faith and love, opens the soul to receive divine grace. He saw it happen in countless lives. People healed, hearts restored, families saved, not because the words were magic, but because they were offered with truth, with fire, with reverence. The next morning, that woman woke up lighter. The sadness hadn't disappeared completely, but it no longer ruled her. She had met something greater than her pain, and it all began with one rosary prayed with the heart fully awake. This is what Padre Pio wanted for each soul. Not to repeat words in the dark, but to use them as a ladder to the light. If this touched your heart in any way, tap the like button and subscribe to this channel. It's not for numbers. It's so that more souls, like hers, like yours, can rediscover what prayer was always meant to be. Let this message reach someone who might be on the edge of giving up. There was a young woman who felt invisible. She had prayed for her marriage, for her children, for peace in her home. But nothing changed. Every rosary felt like a whisper into the wind. One day, tired and overwhelmed, she sat in her room with the lights off. She held the rosary in silence and asked, "Mary, are you even listening to me?" That same week, she stumbled upon a letter written by Padre Pio to one of his spiritual daughters. In it, he said something that struck her deeply. He wrote, "When you feel your prayer is weak, give it to Mary. She knows how to carry even the heaviest cries to God." It was the first time she realized she wasn't supposed to carry the weight alone, that Mary wasn't just listening. She was acting, interceding, fighting beside her. Padre Pio had a deep devotion to the Virgin Mary. He called her the Mother of all graces, and he insisted that the Rosary, when offered with confidence, invited her into every corner of our suffering. He believed that even the weakest prayer, when placed in her hands, became a force of light against darkness. So that night the woman prayed again, but this time she didn't rush. She imagined herself handing every word to Mary, every pain, every fear, every silent wound. And she asked for Padre Pio's intercession too, like someone asking a father to pray beside them. That Rosary was different. She didn't hear voices. She didn't see miracles. But her heart softened. Her anxiety eased. And for the first time in months, she felt that she wasn't alone. Sometimes grace doesn't roar. Sometimes it enters like a gentle hand resting on your shoulder, letting you know heaven is near. If this reminded you of your own journey, write in the comments, "I need Mary and Padre Pio beside me." That may be the most honest prayer your soul can offer today. He always believed prayer was peaceful, that it should bring calm and stillness, but over time, he noticed something strange. Every time he started to pray the Rosary, he would feel anxious, tired. His phone would buzz. His mind would race. He would suddenly remember things he had forgotten all day. He didn't understand it. How could something holy feel so heavy? Padre Pio knew exactly what this meant. He once said that the soul that prays with sincerity becomes a threat to the enemy. And when the soul threatens darkness, the battle begins. What this man didn't realize is that every time he picked up his rosary, a war was happening, not in the room, in the spiritual realm. The rosary wasn't just a devotion. It was a sword, a shield, a cry of defiance against everything trying to pull him away from God. Distraction is one of the enemy's oldest weapons. Padre Pio taught that when you decide to pray, the enemy will send everything he can to make you stop. Thoughts, fatigue, doubt. He doesn't need to destroy your faith. He just needs to weaken your focus. But the man persisted. Slowly, he learned to recognize the signs. When he felt resistance, he didn't quit. He pressed on. He would whisper, "Mary, help me. Padre Pio, stay with me." And he would keep going, one bead at a time. The distractions didn't vanish, but his strength grew. After a few weeks, something changed. The anxiety lessened. The noise in his mind faded faster. The peace returned, not because the battle ended, but because he had learned to fight with prayer, not against it. Padre Pio reminded us that prayer is not always sweet. Sometimes it is war. But it's a war that protects the soul and invites grace into the hardest places. If this spoke to something you've experienced, leave a comment saying, "I want to keep praying, even in the battle." That may be the moment your strength begins to grow. She almost gave up. After months of praying the Rosary daily, nothing had changed. Her son was still distant. Her heart was still broken. Every night, she asked the same question. Am I doing this for nothing? Her hands moved through the beads, but her hope was fading. Until one morning, after a restless night, she remembered a phrase from Padre Pio. Pray, hope, and don't worry. Worry is useless. God is merciful and will hear your prayer. That sentence struck something inside her. Maybe it wasn't about what she felt. Maybe it was about trusting even when she felt nothing at all. So she kept going, slowly, quietly, one Hail Mary at a time. She stopped asking for signs. She started offering her pain. Her rosary became less about outcomes and more about surrender. She wasn't praying for things to change. She was praying to be changed. And something did change. Not all at once, but one day she realized she was no longer desperate. The heaviness was lighter. She felt peace, even when her situation was still uncertain. That peace didn't come from answered prayers. It came from the presence she had invited through them. Padre Pio taught that persistence in prayer forms a shield around the soul. Even when the heart feels dry, even when the mind doubts, heaven is moving. He believed that the Rosary works in silence, beneath the surface, where grace often flows without being seen. That woman's son eventually came home, not because she forced it, but because she never stopped loving him through prayer. She had become stronger, softer, more anchored, and that transformation began the day she decided not to give up. If you're praying but seeing no results yet, stay faithful. Grace doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives inside you. And if this story felt like yours, write in the comments. I choose to keep praying with faith. That quiet decision may lead to the biggest transformation of all. She started praying the Rosary again after her daughter stopped speaking to her. They had argued. Words were said. The silence between them lasted months. She felt helpless. So she went back to the only thing that ever brought peace, the Rosary. At first, she prayed with sadness, with guilt. Her hands trembled on the beads. But one night, she remembered something she had heard in a homily, that Padre Pio once said, "When you pray the Rosary with love, it does not only protect you, it protects those you love even if they are far away." She had never thought of that maybe through every Hail Mary, grace was reaching her daughter, that her prayer wasn't just circling in the air, It was doing something invisible, powerful, real. So she continued. Each decade became a gift. She didn't ask God to change her daughter. She asked God to bless her, to touch her, to keep her safe. The anger began to fade, not from her daughter's mouth, but from her own heart. Weeks passed, then months. One morning she received a message, just one word, Mom. It was enough to break the silence. They slowly rebuilt their relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing. And that healing began on the day a mother decided to pray instead of control. Padre Pio believed the Rosary had the power to surround a home with divine light. He said that even the coldest hearts can be warmed by prayers whispered in silence. That prayer reaches where our hands cannot. If you're praying for someone you love who feels distant, know that your rosary might be the rope pulling their soul back toward the light. You may not see it today, but heaven is working. If this spoke to something you're carrying right now, write in the comments. I offer my rosary for my family. Let that be more than a phrase. Let it be a prayer that echoes into eternity. He was a quiet man, faithful, private. He didn't speak much about his inner world, but every night, without fail, he would sit on the edge of his bed and pray the rosary. Not quickly, not as routine, slowly, intentionally. Every word felt like a step. Every mystery like a path he was walking with Mary and Jesus. People around him noticed he had something different, a calm presence, a peaceful gaze. He didn't preach, he didn't correct, but when he looked at you, you felt seen, loved, protected. No one knew that the rosary was the secret behind that light. Padre Pio always said that the rosary, when prayed with the heart, leaves invisible marks on the soul. Marks of grace, of protection, of transformation. He believed that over time the soul becomes shaped by the prayer it offers, that even if life outside is in chaos, the inner world begins to reflect heaven. This man had no idea how much his prayer was changing him. He only knew that when he didn't pray, something felt missing, and when he did, he felt whole. It wasn't emotional, it was sacred. In his final days, he didn't ask for riches, he asked for his rosary. He held it gently and smiled. He said one sentence before closing his eyes. This is what kept me close to God. That is what happens when the rosary is no longer just a devotion, but a relationship, a place of meeting, a moment where heaven kisses earth through your voice, your silence, your surrender. Padre Pio would often remind his spiritual children that even when words fail, the rosary speaks for you. It tells heaven that you are still fighting, still believing, still hoping. If this journey made you feel something shift inside, leave a comment saying, "My soul wants to be shaped by prayer," because in the end, that is the true miracle. A soul transformed by love, one bead at a time. You made it to the end of this message. And that means something very powerful. It means your soul is still searching, still longing for more, still open to being transformed through prayer. Padre Pio believed that the rosary wasn't just a devotion, it was a doorway, a sacred thread connecting your heart to heaven. And now you know that the way you pray it matters. It shapes you, it protects you, it brings grace not only to your life, but to the lives of those you carry in your heart. If you've been feeling dry in prayer, distant from God, or unsure if your words are reaching heaven, know this. Every time you pray with love and attention, something moves in the invisible, something eternal, something real. Your rosary is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about giving God your time, your heart, your brokenness, your silence. Padre Pio taught us that when you hold those beads with faith, you are not alone. Mary is with you. The angels listen. Grace flows. So keep going. Let today be the beginning of a new way to pray. One that doesn't just repeat words, but breathes them with the soul. And if this journey spoke to your heart, leave a comment saying, "I want to live every prayer with purpose." That tells me you're with us, that you're walking this path too. And now, before you go, let Padre Pio guide you into the next step. There's something he wanted you to do every morning, a simple act that saved thousands of souls. Click on the next video titled, Do This Every Morning, Padre Pio's advice that saved thousands, and continue this journey of protection, healing, and grace. Padre Pio is with you.